I'm now going to continue my video series on Henry Ward Beecher and his sermons by discussing Matthew chapter 21, verses 28 through 31. And this is involving the parable of the two sons and the vineyard. Now here's how this one worked. We have a father. He walks up to the first son. He says, "Look, son, I need you to go out to the vineyard right now and do some work out there." Well, the first son's like, "There is no way on this green earth that I'm going to work out in the vineyard today. It's hot, it's miserable, it's hard labor, I'm not doing it," in the story. Well, then a little later on in the day, the first son thinks about all this and he says, "You know what? Maybe I really should go out to the vineyard and do something." So he goes out there and he does the work and everything's fine. Now the father goes over to the second son. He says, "Look, I need you to go out to the vineyard and actually do some work." And the second son's like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll do whatever you need me to do." But then the second son never gets off his duff and actually does any work. Who is doing the will of the father? The first son. Who gets more respect? The first son or the second? The first. Now, how does that apply to modern day churches? Well, let's refer back to the parable of the Good Samaritan. You remember that one? Oh yes, I refer to this quite often. Here's this injured man. He's been robbed. He's been left for dead. And the first guy walks by and says, "I'll pray for you." And the second guy walks by and says, "I'll pray for you." That's what they say. What kind of help did this injured man, this robbed man, this nearly dying man ever get from the first or the second guy? None. Zip, zero, zilch. Let's apply that to modern day churches. There are some churches where you will walk in there, people will be more than willing to shake your hand. The very second they see you, they come directly at you. They will shake your hand, they'll get to know you, you'll strike it up, you'll become instant best friends. If you're ever in a church like that, stick with them. Stick with them like glue. They're the kind of people that really want you there, and you feel like they want you there. But then there are other churches. Sure, they'll shake your hand if you actually manage to walk up to them. Sometimes they won't even do that. You walk right up to them and they will just flat out ignore you. Think about that. You're being ignored by a fellow Christian? What's up with that? Well, I ain't gonna shake his hand. Might wave at him a little bit. I ain't shaking his hand. I don't want to get to know this guy. He's your brother or sister in Christ. And you don't want to get to know him? Or her? Please. See what I mean? But even if they do manage to shake your hand, and they will do it in an uneasy fashion, well, I guess I better shake his hand. They'll never really get to know you. They don't want to get to know you. And you will feel alienated from them. I'm not kidding. They might wish you well, but they'll never get involved in your personal life at all. They don't want to hear anything about you. They'll tell you how glad they are that you're there. But you know, flattery will only get you so far. If you're in a church like that where you feel no more welcome leaving that church than you did when you first walked in, don't go back. Because they don't care about you. And yes, there are some churches in the world that are like this. I'm sorry to say. Anyway, there's another reference in the Bible. It's in the book of Acts that this often refers to. Goes with the Ananias and Sapphira story. How'd that one work out? Well, the problem with Ananias and Sapphira was, it wasn't that they weren't going to give their tithes. That was bad enough. But they lied about it. They said, hey, we're going to give you X and Y tithes. And they never did. God wasn't ticked off at them because they didn't give all their tithes. He was ticked off at them because they lied about it. They said they were going to do something and they really didn't. God doesn't respect liars. Let your yeses be yes and let your noes be noes. God would be far less angry with you if you didn't put something in the offering plate than if you say you were going to put something in the offering plate and you didn't do it. That's the truth. If you don't believe me, go over to the story of Ananias and Sapphira and see for yourself. See what happened to them when they said, hey, we're going to give these tithes, and they never did. See what happened. It wasn't pretty. There are some people, some Christians, I kid you not, that will stand there, and if the church says, hey, we're going to put on this production, we need volunteers, they'll be some of the first to raise their hands. When they show up on that first day to try to put that set together and realize that they're actually going to have to do something, except advise, they'll take off. No question. See what I mean? So, they'll say they'll do something, but they won't do anything. They'll sit there and they'll hear some kind of news story that outrages them. Say somebody is abusing Christians, and they'll hear about it, and it'll outrage them. They'll say, oh, that's a horrible thing to happen. If you ask them to do something about what was happening to that Christian, well, I just don't know what to do. And think about those people that put money in the offering plate. Do you know who some of the most stingy people are? You'll see this. You'll see poor people, when they get the offering plate, they're putting everything they can possibly put into the offering plate. That's what they're doing. May not look like much, but that's exactly what they're doing. You want to know who's the stingiest when it comes to an offering plate? Usually the rich. That's right. Some of the richest people in the church will put the least amount in the offering plate. Isn't that stunning? Now, they're not all like that. But there are people that are like that. They're rich and they still won't put anything in the offering plate. And some people believe that if you put things in the offering plate, that's all you have to do. That's wrong. You know, I didn't get on this YouTube channel and say, hey, listen everybody, I feel horrible about your unemployment situation. I wish there was something I could do. I just feel horrible. You know what I did? I put up a ton of education and said, now you go learn this stuff, and then you try to find a job. You'll have a much better chance of doing so. Why? Because God cannot put you in a high-paying position if you don't have the education to back it up. It just can't be done. It's simple logic. If you don't know how to fix a car, God can't put you in a fixing car job. He can't make you a mechanic. It doesn't work that way. Now I could go on and on with this. There are people in churches all across the country that will do nothing more than wish you well. They won't get to know you. They won't offer you an ounce of assistance whatsoever, but they'll wish you well. Those kind of people, avoid them like the plague. Because they have no intentions of helping anybody. And they're not worth your time of day. But if you do find somebody, a genuine somebody, who offers genuine assistance, and they're Christian, stick to them like gold. Those are your real Christians. You say, well, I can't seem to find anybody. Well, if you're watching this video, you found one. No, I'm not going to hand you a ton of money, but I will continue to hand you all the education that you need so that you can go get the money. Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach him how to fish, and he eats for a lifetime. That's what I'm doing here. I am teaching you how to fish. And one of these days you're going to get real good at it. You're going to be able to get your own money. And nobody will have to hand you anything ever again. That's how this YouTube channel operates. And I will continue to educate you until you get your job. And if you're being bullied, and you need to get into an advanced placement course so you can get away from the bully, all you have to do is learn from these videos and use all that enhanced knowledge to get yourself in those AP courses. And if you have any problems with that, you let me know, and I will continue to work with you until such time as that situation is resolved. I didn't stand there and say, hey, look, I feel so bad you're getting bullied. I said, hey, look, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you out of that situation. I will teach you to the ends of the earth to get you out. And that's what I'm doing. All right. I think I've taught enough for this evening. I will tell you more in a future video. Stay tuned.